Make a joyful noise. Welcome. I'm Susan Stevens Chambers, and I'm serving as your worship leader today. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Mankato, where our worship is entirely real and vital, life-giving, life-sustaining, in all times, including these times. All of you here today, both in person and through Zoom, you are all welcome. In this time we make sacred together. All are loved, worthy, and needed. Here you can bring your whole self. In these times and in all times, may we move into action to create the world of equity and liberation about which we dream. May we hold reverently and tenderly to this one life, the here and now of which we are certain. We humbly acknowledge that before European colonization, the Dakota people were stewards of the land on which our fellowship building sits. They teach us that the land does not belong to any of us, though it holds the history of our conflicts and our attempts at reconciliation. And we commit to an ongoing and intentional journey of humble connection with Indigenous peoples characterized by understanding our shared history, accepting responsibility for restoration, and building relationship in the here and now. Thus, we seek to be good relatives. As I said, I'm serving as worship leader today because Reverend Rita has departed, and we wish her well in her new journeys in both New York and Canada as she begins a new process. In this time of transition, we're all making the effort to have worship be as meaningful as always. So please send us, and by us I mean the worship committee, any suggestions of ways to make it so. That would be myself, Diane, Linda Gansky, Diane Dobitz. So we hope that you will keep giving us your good suggestions. And Sunday morning is a real team effort. Hospitality today has been provided by Dennis and Nancy Cramblett. That means there'll be goodies downstairs and coffee after the service. And thanks to our worship associate, Diane Langland, to our talented pianist, Nancy Cramblett, as well as a thank you to our greeters, Deanne Nelson and Jim Rovney. We're grateful to our tech crew, Kat Clements and Andy Roberts, and thanks to the hearing assistance from Dennis Cramblett. There will be no religious education today, but there will be family support. And Deb Fitzlot is in the back, and if any children want to join her downstairs, they will be doing entertaining things. If you're new to the fellowship, we are grateful that you are expanding the we who is us. And we're also grateful to have contact information, which you can provide online or in the forms that are here in the pews, or that the greeters can help you find in the entryway. If you're attending by Zoom today, stay after the service to visit together, and we'll have the in-person hospitality in the fellowship hall. Please remember to look in the weekly update to learn about all the new initiatives beginning and groups forming for companionship and social action. And now let us move more deeply into a time of worship.
Let us now move more deeply into a time of worship, shaping worth and meaning from the ordinary as a way to honor the gift of life we all share. Together, let us kindle a flame symbolizing our co-creation of sacred space at home and in this place made sacred by years of love. As you do, for those attending on Zoom, please write in the chat that a chalice is lit on your street. And please say these words with me on your pew cards. We are a welcoming people of diverse beliefs who commit to nourish the spirit, broaden the mind, nurture the earth, and build community. May this flame we kindle remind us to strive today and every day to love beyond belief.
Ted Kooser sees a black plastic trash bag fluttering in the ditch and creates poetry out of his vision. His images invite you into that moment. We all see not just a plastic bag, but something alive. We feel emotions as the bag moves through the instant. This is a good example of working creatively. Art has been born all out of a plastic bag. I recently received one of the best birthday presents I've had in a long time, a book that explores art and the act of creating, expanding my definitions of what is art, and encouraging me to create by stepping away from deliberate intent. And I want to share this book with you. I'm going to read a lot of what the author has to say. When you saw the YouTube interview, some of you probably recognized Rick Rubin. I didn't read anything about him until after I had finished the book. The book was so compelling, I just kept going until I'd read it cover to cover, and then I wanted to know more about the writer. And what a surprise it was for me when I first went on the internet and saw the long beard and read about him. Rick Rubin is a legend. As one of the most renowned music producers of all time, he's known for finding and developing new artists after launching his own iconic record label, Def Jam. He holds 9 Grammy Awards, winning his first as a producer in 1997 for Best Country Album with Johnny Cash's Unchained. He's very wealthy these days. But he isn't your average music producer. He's a producer, yes, but he's also something of a philosopher. His hidden genius lies in that he can get inside the brains of artists and help them find and develop their own unique voice. He's been called a psychological problem solver who gets artists to tap into their most creative place and produce their best work. And what's his superpower in all of this? Listening with intent. In his book, The Creative Act, A Way of Being, he asserts that creativity is not a rare ability only to be reserved for artists. He encourages all of us to tap our creativity. He quotes, "It's not difficult to access. Creativity is a fundamental aspect of being human. It's our birthright, and it's for all of us. Creativity doesn't exclusively relate to making art. We all engage in this act on a daily basis. To create is to bring something into existence that wasn't there before. So, while artists may strive to be creative, hoping for that masterpiece to rise with their efforts, they don't have any exclusive claim to creativity. You can be creative in mowing your lawn, weeding your garden, succeeding in your job, driving a car. Rubin suggests that we do this by putting our whole being into the practice of paying attention. He notes that our entire lives are a form of self-expression. You, he tells us, exist as a creative being in a creative universe. He asks us to recognize the source material of creativity, and to do that, you begin with everything. The content doesn't come from inside us, but rather from without. He defines it as the wisdom surrounding us. We either sense it, remember it, or tune into it. Not only through our experiences, he tells us, it may be also in dreams, intuitions, subliminal fragments, or other ways still unknown by which the outside finds its inside. As I read that, I began to realize it sounds like religion, or spirituality, if you prefer that term. It's the reason I felt it appropriate to talk about these things for a Sunday morning sermon. Rubin states that we all have tiny fragments of the vastness of the source stored within us. To access it, to unlock creativity in our lives, he has some suggestions. Most of the time, we gather data from the world through the five senses. If I sit down to write a poem, I often start with the senses. But if I sat down intending to write a poem about world peace, for example, my intentions would probably get in the way of creativity. Rubin instructs us not to strive to pick up energetic material that can't be physically grasped. Instead, he suggests not to look for it, not to analyze or attempt to predict it. He recommends that you create an open space that allows energy and creativity to emerge. He points out that children have this ability. They accept new information with delight instead of making comparisons to what we as adults tend to believe. He maintains that artists, and by that he includes everyone, housekeepers, accountants, dog trainers, anyone who pays attention and is open to experiencing a sense of awe, even for the most ordinary experiences in life, that these artists are able to continually create great works throughout their lives because they often manage to preserve their childlike qualities. Practicing a way of being that allows you to see the world through uncorrupted, innocent eyes can free you. And isn't that what Ted Kooser was practicing? He invites the reader to share a myriad of emotions as he describes the black plastic trash bag shouldering and pushing its way down the side of the road, buffeted by wind gusts. The bag has a personality. If Ted Kooser had let his thinking mind take over, he might have edited himself out of writing an excellent poem. But by remaining open and just letting his description of what he saw take shape, his images dance on the page and become something bigger than just a plastic bag. If he'd followed the rules, he might never have picked up his pen at all. A rule is any guiding principle or creative criterion. It might exist within the artist, it might exist in the genre or in culture. Rules, by their nature, Rubin tells us, are limitations. Rubin asserts that rules lead to average behaviors. Creativity comes when you don't apply rules to the situation. That way, there are no limitations on where your creativity can go. He tells us the goal is not to fit in. If anything, it's to amplify the differences, what doesn't fit, the special characteristics unique to how you see the world. Instead of sounding like others, value your own voice, develop it, cherish it. He advises that whenever some type of convention is established, consider that the most interesting work will be the one that doesn't follow that convention. He tells us to try not to judge, to remain open to new possibilities. He asks that we tune into the idea of making things and sharing them without being attached to the outcome. The work, he asserts, is more likely to arrive in its truest form if you can detach. So our goal as a creative artist of any type is to just let it take place and not strive to be the best or to make a great work. Creative works and efforts attract us because you can feel pulled into the music, the picture. And this could pertain to creatively running a board meeting, to finding new pathways in a committee meeting, as well as reading a wonderful novel or poem or seeing a great work of art. He says that you can tell you are moving in the right direction if, when you view what someone has done creatively, an energy enters the room and possesses your body. He says, call it joy, awe, or elation. When a sense of harmony and fulfillment suddenly prevails, it is an arising of the ecstatic. This can occur at any point during a project. You may be moving along in the neutral zone for some time. You hit a new note, and suddenly you feel magnetized. You're engaged. And Rubin calls this a visceral, body-centered reaction, not a thinking moment. It doesn't have to make sense. It is not meant to be understood. Rather, it guides us. It depends on us getting out of our heads. We can surprise ourselves and make something greater than we're capable of understanding at the time. He asks us to tune into the feelings in your creative work. He says, of all the experiences that occur during the creative process, touching the ecstatic and allowing it to guide our hand are the most profound and precious. If I use the word spiritual rather than ecstatic, it may help you to see that this is an emotional response, not a thinking response, and so is appropriate for a topic on this lovely summer Sunday morning. It is helpful to work as if the project you're engaged in is bigger than you, Rubin suggests. And I agree. Sarah Cyphers, our new president, a couple of Sundays ago, asked us as a part of her theme, what next for UUFM? This is a project that is bigger than just you. It takes a community to respond to that question. So I would ask that you approach these questions and our transitions with an open mind in order to allow creativity to enter, to help us shape our next steps. Rubin notes that when we are gathering seeds to begin our work, we may be tempted to look for a grand sign before committing ourselves. A clap of thunder to assure us that we found the right path. We may discard ideas that don't seem of great importance or magnitude. But size does not matter. Volume does not equal value. he reminds us that the smallest seed sometimes grows into the biggest tree. We shouldn't weigh things based on the initial impact. Most often, he says, the hints of inspiration and direction from the source are small. They appear as tiny singles, traveling through the void in space, quiet and subtle, like a whisper. The advice he gives to us is to be silent. Pay close attention. Relax your effort. If we're trying to solve a problem, he says, trying can get in the way. Splashing in a pond stirs up clouds of dirt in the clear water. In relaxing the mind, we may have greater clarity to hear the whisper when it comes. He suggests, in addition to meditation, we might softly hold on to a question and go for a walk or swim or a drive. The question isn't being worked on, just loosely held in awareness. We are opening ourselves to receive an answer. Sometimes the words we need will seem to arise from the outside, and other times from the inside. We allow it to come by grace, not by effort. A whisper cannot be wrestled into existence, only welcomed with an open state of mind. Another favorite poet of mine, Rumi, has a poem commenting on his own interpretation of discovering that sense of religion or spirituality, or if you would have it, finding God. During the day, I was singing with you. At night, we slept in the same bed. I wasn't conscious day or night. I thought I knew who I was, but I was you. When Rumi says he wasn't conscious day or night, he's talking about the mystical experience of being radically free from what most people think of as the normal state of awareness. All the mental chatter and concepts no longer rule his perception. There's no separation between things, no night, no day, and there's no little sense of self from which to view it. What remains instead is a blissful, silent awareness that allows him to drink in everything unfiltered. There is perception, but there is no I to perceive or to be conscious. Rumi reminds us many have spent an entire lifetime imagining that we know who we are, but do we? In such utter stillness, we discover that this long cultivated me thing is a mere phantom. We're stunned to discover that there is no difference between oneself and the pure vastness that is the beloved, that is God. Such a sacred experience could also be described as orgasmic, or as Rubin describes it, discovering our creative energy and by allowing it entry, creating something great. Both Rubin and Rumi assert that this energy is sacred, that it spreads a glowing awareness of bliss throughout the body and mind. My husband asked me if I would share one of my own poems in this talk. My editor and thought police jumped in and responded, no. I was letting rules guide me, but such limitations lead to average results. And so I decided to risk a little further. Here is a poem of mine where I think I did what Ted Kooser did, just open myself to the images that were surrounding me. It's called Entering the Dark of 2 a.m. Everything is quiet. No wind, no calls in the night. The stars watch, soundless. Pine trees keep a vigil. The moon, a slanted half-disk, slides behind the last oak leaves of the big tree on the hillside. Never says goodbye. I inhale a steady, slow breath that keeps the stillness. Outside my window, layers of black. No bird songs, no rustles from wood floor, no passing car on the distant lane. But in the yard, something small crosses my lawn, only glimpsed because of a faint shadow. There is nothing to tell me who passes. She does not confess with word, chitter, or bark. The silence here is my comfort. This night, a cool reminder that time passes. The enduring black is a thick blanket around me and is my trusted companion. Rubin ends his book with the comment that the reason we're alive is to express ourselves in the world. Creating art, he says, may be the most effective and beautiful method for doing so. And he describes art as all things we do in our lives, even the everyday things. He wants us to pay close attention. It's a simple message, but it needs to be repeated over and over again. He tells us art goes beyond language, beyond lives. It is a universal way to send messages between each other and through time. Remember, as we take the next steps to build anew our spiritual home, that we may be called on to take creative steps. Rubin quotes, "The universe holds a sense of harmony, a beautifully deep, interdependent system." And he tells us when you step back from a project you have been working on for some time and recognize a new symmetry you never knew was possible, you will likely feel a calm satisfaction, an excitement that contains at its core a sense of peace. Order appears. A harmonic resonance is palatable. You are a participant in this intricate mechanism. If we can't recognize the harmony, we may need to zoom in or zoom out far enough to make things clear. Our inability to comprehend the inner workings of the universe may actually bring us more in tune with its infinitude. He tells us the magic is not in analyzing or understanding. The magic lives in the wonder of what we do not know. So lend your creativity to our leaders who are forging new pathways in our spiritual journey here at UUFM. Come to any suggestions with an open mind, a childlike wonderment and awe. Help us find the harmony that will exist in the creative acts we discover by holding ourselves open. Share ideas you like with all of us, be they large ideas or small. Make the effort to be extraordinary by participating in a way of being, as you remember that you are loved, you are needed, and you are welcome to be a part of our community. May it be so, and may you say, "Blessed be."
As we conclude our time of worship this morning, let us make a promise that we will remain committed to sustained and robust relationships with each other, to the vision of our faith community, to the values of Unitarian Universalism, and to the interdependent web holding us all. As Sue extinguishes the sanctuary chalice, please extinguish your chalice at home and say these words with me, which are on your pew card. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.